Ryan's Indie Spotlight is back, and this week I'm going to be taking a look at Wulverblade, which came out last week on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The game released first on Nintendo Switch some time ago. I'm playing the Xbox One X version. Wulverblade was developed by Fully Illustrated and published by Darkwind Media, and it retails for $14.99, and I want to thank the publisher for sending over the code for the purpose of this video. Wulverblade is a 2D side-scrolling arcade beat-em-up, clearly inspired by the greats such as Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, and even something more recent like Castle Crashers. So if you're a fan of those titles, you might be really interested in playing Wulverblade. Now the setup to this game is pretty simple. The Romans have invaded Britain. They've almost taken control of the entire north, but they've run into a problem. That is your tribe, and it's your job to kick them out of Britain, kill as many as you can, and send a message to the Roman Empire that they are not welcome here. So when you start up the game, you can choose from a couple different modes. You can play the campaign mode, single player, or with a friend in local co-op. It features 8 levels with a checkpoint in between. You get 3 lives, but as many continues as you want to try to beat the level. Or you can choose arcade mode, which is for the hardcore. You have 3 lives, 3 continues, and that is it. Now once you make your choice, you can choose from one of 3 characters. Each one stats are a little bit different, although they share the same move list. You can choose from Kardak, who is the all-around fighter, got good power, good speed, and good defense. Brennus, who is the hulking tank, has a ton of power but is very slow, doesn't have a lot of defense. And Guinevere, who is very nimble and agile, doesn't have a lot of power but is very fast on her feet. Now, what did I like about this game? I really actually enjoyed the combat. It's not complex. You won't be stringing along huge combos like a game like God of War or Bayonetta, but it works for this game. The game can also be pretty brutal and gory at times. Since you move left through right throughout the levels, the game will just toss enemies at you, and as you're attacking them, building up these huge combos in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll notice that sometimes you'll chop their head off or chop their arms off, and they'll drop their weapons. Well, you can actually pick those weapons up, pick their heads up, and throw them back at you. And as you build up your combo meter, as it gets really high, you can activate your rage mode, which the screen turns red and you just become this beast that just doesn't take any damage, regens health, and you are just attacking non-stop. And since you have this bond with the wolves in the area, 1 time per level you can call in the wolves by holding in right trigger and pressing X, and they will come in to help you out by basically killing anybody on the screen. Now, the first couple levels are basically tutorial based. They're pretty easy. They throw archers and pretty easy enemies at you, but once you hit level 3 and level 4, the difficulty spikes up, and you're going to need to actually use a little bit of thought to get past some of the tougher enemies. You have assassins that throw daggers at you. You have Roman legionnaires with shields and swords that require a little bit more thought. Maybe you have to jump over them to get behind them, but this can be a pretty difficult game. I didn't beat every level without dying. There are times where I used all 3 of my lives because you can get sandwiched. Guy on the left, guy on the right, and they can beat you down pretty fast, and before you know it, your health is completely gone. But if you don't want to deal with the difficulty and the frustration some of the bosses and encounters can give you, then you can always play the game on easy mode. A couple other things that I enjoyed about the game was the look. I really enjoyed the look that the game offered. The 2D cinematic artwork, some of the levels really stand out. They look sharp and crisp, so that's a plus in my eyes. The fact that there's voice acting for each one of the main characters is really cool, and that's something you see often in a $15 indie game. There's a narrator that ties the entire story together, which I thought was great, and there's even a nice little vignette after the end of every single level, which I thought was pretty cool. Some of my issues with the game are the fact that it's way too short. It's 2.5 hours long. There are 8 levels. You can beat each one in like 10 minutes, and that is with dying repeatedly to a couple bosses until I figured out how to beat them. There's no online co-op, which is a travesty in a game like this. It's local only. This game screams to be played in co-op like Castle Crasher, so that is a huge negative in my opinion. And also, even though I enjoyed the combat, it could have been so much more improved by the simple fact of letting you have a heavy weapon with you the entire time so you can mix up your attacks on X and Y. Now, achievements and trophies. This one's going to be a little bit difficult. You got to beat all the bosses in the game without losing a life. You have to beat arcade mode, which is 3 lives and 3 continues, and that's it. So you got to beat the entire game, which will be quite a task. And then you also got to reach level 30 in the arena. So at the end of the day, would I recommend Wulverblade? That depends, honestly. If you're a fan of the genre, then maybe it might be worth checking out at $15. There's a lot here the game does right, but there's also a lot of stuff the game does wrong. I mean, it's 2 hours long and it's $15. So only really check this out if you're a fan of Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, and Castle Crashers. And if you're a big fan, then yeah, pick this up for $15. But honestly, if it had online co-op right from the get-go, I would recommend this right away, but it doesn't. It's too short. Otherwise, for everybody else out there, I'd say wait for a sale. Maybe at $10, pick it up and you can have a good time. Definitely for $5 though. I do think the game's good. It's just not great. Anyways, guys, that is my review for Wulverblade. I'd probably give it around a 7. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel for more content. And I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.